for this particular session, the intent is each one of us is marketing to the architects, and in some cases we actually have architects in the room. But so sometimes it's just as important for you to know if your product is right for the job as it is to call on an architect. So today, I've got Elias Saltz, who's an architect that works for Conspectus. It does specifications for several different firms across the Chicagoland area and probably a lot of other places at this point. So we have an architect in-house, and we also, or a specifier in-house, I guess I shouldn't say architect, a specifier.
Recovering architect.
Recovering architect, there you go. And Tanya actually is a business owner in the manufacturing rep business, and so she has the opportunity to be able to see things from her perspective as well. So I have a business owner and a recovering architect, and we thought we'd go ahead and give you guys a chance, we'd give everybody a chance to see if your product is right for the job. So I'll turn it over to you folks.
Right. So yeah, my name is Elias Saltz. I'm a specifier for Conspectus and architect, recovering architect. 25 years experience. Conspectus is the largest specifications consulting firm in North America, or maybe even in the whole industry. Most of our work is typically around the eastern half of the U.S., but covering a lot more and more as we go.
Tanya Adams, I own Envision Glass Design near Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we manufacture decorative glass, so backing of glass, laser etching. So I come from the manufacturing side. And, well, in this course, I'm now realizing that I should not rep my own product and I should get some salespeople. So we can talk later.
So we're going to talk about how architects may be doing their product selection so that people who are outside of the architect's office maybe have a picture about what is going through the architect's mind at the time when they may be researching a product, what types of criteria go into the decision-making process. So, for a lot of product reps, they may call on architects, talk to the architects about the products, find out from the architects what projects are in process, try to keep track of what those projects are and whether or not their products are being specified, but probably feels to you a bit like you're looking at the outside of a black box. Is that kind of correct? Where you're talking to the architects, you think that they've been receptive to you in terms of the information you're providing about products, but then at the end of the day, the spec comes out and maybe your product's listed and maybe it isn't. You don't really know how those decisions were made. So architects are making decisions based on the information that they're finding from obviously numerous sources. One of them being, physical libraries becoming far less prevalent. You probably noticed that people just do not want binders anymore. So the first picture there, kind of obsolete. MasterSpec still a very good source just in terms of agglomerating all the manufacturers' information for particular products within the divisions and specification section numbers. Some product manufacturers have paid for specs for enhanced listings. I would think that is worthwhile because in terms of spec, when I use that site and I use it all the time, the companies that are listed with information about what the products are that are included underneath that specification section I'm more likely to click on those than on the ones that just list the name. And if I'm not familiar with the name, then less likely to utilize that. Yes?
So do the architects pay for specs?
Architects do not pay for specs. It's just for us, it's a website maintained by Colin Malloy, I think it's Gilboy. Right. And he collects the manufacturer names and categorizes them by spec division and spec section, and then collects fees from the ones that want enhanced listings. So that's kind of their business model. And and he also keeps track of company changes. Right. So when Knopf buys USG, that's reflected as soon as he finds out about those kinds of transactions and company names changing, listed by month and year. So you go on there, you can find out, whether or not, find out basically when he learned that, say, Masonite Architectural bought Graham and Goma and subsumed those product names and stuff. So it's a very worthwhile website, from our perspective, and I think that from manufacturers' perspectives, just seeing that you are listed and listed in the correct divisions, and then let Colin know that if there's corrections to be made, that would be one way to get corrected. And clearly just Googling things, very easy way to get information. I don't use green format. I don't know, Ellen, did you ever use green format?
Very some.
Yeah, so I would not worry about that. So the information that we are looking for, from my perspective as a specifier, the colors of things, not critical. Designers are looking at colors, but technical data, very useful. Guide specifications, I'm not ever using them verbatim, but they often contain a useful paragraph or two that I can adapt. But it's typically the technical information and what standards, whatever the product is being tested against, and the results of the tests. So I can compare one product against another, see if they're equivalent.
So when you're comparing products, what's the criteria that you look at specifically to see if this product compares to that product? So let's say if you paint on solids, is that comparable, or what are the things that you look at?
That's a really broad question because there could be 1,000 different criteria and a million different products. So everything is every product category, there's slightly different things that you're looking at. So it could be, if you're trying to write a spec where you have multiple comparable products, then you have volume solids could be one, or it could be VOCs, or it could be could be availability of colors to match one versus the other. So it could be many different things. So it's hard to answer that unless you have a very it's kind of something that when I'm looking at one product, say window, there's the performance criteria that I might want to look at one manufacturer versus another. Also, how the window, whether or not the extrusions for the window look basically similar, so that if one is bought versus the other, then the architect's going to have a building or a product that looks the way that he wants. So those kind of criteria are so it could be almost anything.
Sure.
So the question is, how important are good guide specifications? And for me, the guide specifications that we're using are ones that my firm has built up over 20 years of being in business. I've only been there for about 1.25 years, but I can just see the embedded knowledge every time I open one of our specs, because we've edited them over years and inserted comments, and so built in a lot of knowledge. So when we go to guide specifications, typically find that they are not formatted well. They're often not kept up to date. So manufacturer guide specs, I kind of wish that they were more useful, I think, which involves work on the manufacturer's part, keeping the specs up to date, using section format so that the sections are organized correctly, and also not including a lot of extraneous information that doesn't apply to the product.
So I can talk on that a little bit, being the manufacturer. When I first started the business about 10 years ago, I didn't have any of that. I just had a great idea, and I'm going to manufacture decorative glass. So to get that out to people, I kind of hit the road, and because I was, getting spec'd in for back painting glass, I didn't have a specification. So when that architect is going to the next project, let's say a library, we're using the exact same thing that they just used in this other library that I did with them. Now my competitor's in there. And they kept doing that, but then they would always come back to me. In the design phase, they would talk to me about all this stuff. And then I said, why aren't you actually specifying me in the project right away? Why are you coming to me after the fact? And was basically because I didn't have the guy, a really good specification. And so I finally had the three-part spec created for me. I reached out to a specifier, just to try to create a really good specification. I only have 4 main products that I do. You can interchange these 4 products and you can combine those 4 products. So for me, I saw a huge increase of actually being specified in a job because I had a good spec. But yeah, that's the manufacturer side of it.
Sure.
I'm still building on it.
Yeah, and from my perspective, so as an independent specifier in a, very kind of a sophisticated independent spec firm, we have very good in-house guide specs that we've developed over years. Architects who are writing their own specs, which there's a lot of them out there, I think that good guide specs for them is probably a godsend in terms of not having to reinvent the wheel every time or rely on masters in their own offices that they haven't read carefully, or so at the time when they make a decision that they want glass, decorative glass from Tanya, having the spec that they can kind of drop in, I think for that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So when you say guide specification, are you referring to the entire section specification in a 3-part format? Or are you talking about short form? It's just your specific paragraph. What's the easiest way to get that information to you guys so you don't have to sift through 5 or 6 pages?
Yeah, I like just having the part 2 paragraphs, but that's just me. I don't know. What do you hear?
Editable specs.
Yeah, it's got to be editable.
Yeah.
It's got to be a
So-
Word document. It can't be
You just get
PDF.
what you want, copy and paste. and things.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I found. But specifically for me, I have the whole specification for that section, including my products, but it's editable. So if they only need the two lines or the 2 paragraphs specific for back painting glass, they can pull that and adapt it for what they need.
How often do you go out and see what you specify?
Well, as an independent, I don't get out in the field, which is kind of that is one of the weaknesses in terms of my role.
Yeah,
is that I
a lot
don't
of
get,
friends are spec writers. You talk to them, it's amazing how few projects the spec writers actually get to see.
right. Yeah, when I was
CSI tours, they would see it.
Yeah, when I was an in-house specifier, did that before. It was much easier because I would be there when the shop drawings were arriving, and I would occasionally get to go out on the field, even if I wasn't the PA on the project. But as an independent specifier, when I'm working on projects all over the country, I don't get to go see the projects, and I don't see the shop drawings, so I really don't. So that is definitely, the big point. Until the architect calls me up and says, can we substitute this with this, or there was a problem with this spec, I don't know whether or not what I'm specifying is getting bought, or how close to what is specified is actually what's showing up on the field. Obviously, some stuff is, but I don't know about what percentage. So there's, getting specified is obviously the first step. Then getting your stuff out there in the job, you probably are more familiar with how that happens than I am.
Elias,
Dad,
before we move on.
Yeah.
CSI used to have a program where they would actually take a manufacturer and create guide specs under the supervision of the CSI format, and they don't do that now. But since we're in a room with CSI people and we're at a CSI convention, a conference, I'm going to tell you that there are people in this room, if you do not have that, like Tanya just said, that was a great advertisement for the value of CSI. If you do not have that currently, if you have not had a professional specification person put your spec, a complete spec, completely editable in a Word document that you can put somewhere publicly that anybody can have to take care of, that's what an architect wants. They don't have to sign in anywhere to be able to register for it. And you should have someone from CSI that has that expertise put together that kind of a guide spec for you, for your company. Regardless of what it costs, it will pay dividends 10 times over. Alan, Elias, agree, disagree?
I totally agree.
yeah, definitely agree.
Okay.
I think the part 3 paragraphs that are very specific to the product, also probably very useful. You know, part 1 stuff, typically not, you may have, something specific in the warranty that, or quality assurance that you could include. Most part 1 section is, the architect's mostly going to use what they know in terms of part 1, but so part 2 and part 3 is where kind of the most valuable text that we can use. So our pet peeves about product information. Biggest pet peeve I have is not being able to find information readily on manufacturers' websites. If I have to cast about for 10 minutes on a website trying to find product data, I might give up and go to a competing product where I think I can find it more easily. So again, just making it very easy to find product data. The links for product data, it should say product data. The link for a guide spec, it should say three-part specification or guide specification. Don't make me guess whether architect information means what I'm looking for or something else, because that usually, sometimes you click on architect information and it just goes to like your CEUs that you offer. Well, that's not what I'm looking for. Looking for the product data, it should just say product data. So that's pet peeve, that very difficult to find information. Somebody have a question? Yeah.
So how often do you approve of product reps contacting you, or are you contacting product reps when you have like that information, or if it's something that's hard to find?
Yeah, I'll contact product reps. I reach out to product reps, numerous times per week. I personally am always open to product reps calling me because I acknowledge that, even though I know a lot, I don't know everything, and I don't know, I only know a little bit about everything, essentially. So I meet with product reps pretty much whenever they ask me to, just so I can get knowledge, get learned on what the stuff is that they have, and I just want them to know that I'm a resource for manufacturers reps as well, because if I'm working on 15 projects and I can tell them about 15 projects that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily know about, so it's benefits everybody, I think, for specifiers, and especially independent specifiers, because I might be working with architects that a particular product rep hasn't contacted, and I can make that match between the architect and the product rep. If I think that the product rep has brought to me something that I can think, oh yeah, that project it might be outside territory, but it's to start. So a project in Philadelphia is going to be needing a product that's just like the one you showed me, then I can say, hey, call this architect, and I'll say, I'll have this architect call you about this, because I think it'll be a good match for this project. So in terms of my communications with product reps, that's about what it looks like, I would think. Yeah.
Don't you like product reps that are active in CSI and joint committees and board meetings that you get to know them and trust them?
Oh yeah, that's true
The
too.
best thing you do is be active in CSI.
Well, the salesperson for CSI, and somebody who's been in CSI for not as long as other people around here, but for quite a while. Yeah, I like seeing reps in CSI meetings, and I make a point to talk to the reps that are showing up at Chicago chapter meetings, and especially in Chicago chapter where we're getting 100 people at a monthly meeting, and maybe only. So, Alan, what would you say? Like we get 40% product reps and 60% professionals, or
30-40% reps.
yeah. So
Really?
Yeah.
God, we're like 80-20 reps.
I've belonged to two chapters, and the other chapter is one of the other PI, and that's the 80-20 reps to
Yeah, we'll have 120 people in all that. Be 20 that expect to show up.
Yeah, Chicago chapter brings in most, a lot of architects to our,
60%.
so, yeah, come to Chicago. Meetings are, fourth Tuesday of the month. Meet there. So in terms of information, product information on data sheets, I think the pet peeve in terms of what they actually say is manufacturers are a little bit hesitant to describe the primary ingredient in their products. And it's not it's an environmental declaration thing. It's just being able to specify it accurately. If I can say, well, this product is, proprietary blend of chemicals. You can't really do an apples to apples comparison in that case. So trying to make the product data so generic that the architect has no choice but to make a proprietary selection is more likely to turn me off to trying to using that product. So being upfront in the product data about what product main characteristics are.
Put a lot of value in test reports.
Yeah, well, I think test reports, we don't necessarily specify by test reports because we're not doing very many performance specifications, but just being able to compare products against each other by the test reports, or by the test results, and hopefully having products that have been tested to the same methods.
That's the problem or not.
Yeah, that is the
So
problem. So it's
that's
hard.
why a rep side wants to pay attention to the test reports because the other products are not testing the same standards.
Right.
And that's what frustrates you when
Yeah,
they
they
approve because they don't say test report. So they don't test the whole system.
mhm.
They may test a particular part.
Yeah. It's hard to say what to do about that because, how do we know?
CSI and talk to everybody.
Yeah, that's one of those things that until you had a product that's not worked out for some reason, and then you put a black mark next to a product because of failure, because, the product data didn't say, wasn't upfront about how the product should be used and how it should not be used. I think at that point, I think information that creates doubt, I guess it should be an opportunity for a highlighting point for us to reach out to the manufacturers and say, hey, I'm confused about product data that I'm reading here. What's it saying, and what, is this product appropriate for this use, or is it not? So there's a certain amount of, decision making that we do just in terms of whether or not to go out, take the time it takes to ask those questions.
But if you just go to ASTM test reports, that would take away a lot of your time. Just ask for the test report.
Now, one of the issues that you just brought up, the HDM stuff, is I have researched products that are the same type of product, but they're tested different ways using different ASTM standards.
But are you doing also check to see what version of that ASTM test you're looking at?
Yeah.
If there's been an update?
Yeah.
Because one of the problems that I see from my side is when the specifier uses an obsolete spec, it just keeps getting boilerplated down, kicked down the road. At what point, how often do you go and clean them up?
My specifications do not have the date of the standards. It's based on the date of
The most current.
the bid.
Right, the most current version of the standards or the standard that's referenced in the code, which may not always be the most current.
Where I find the problem is in guide specs that are using outdated standards. And those standards could have been deleted already. I have a subscription to ASTM standards referenced in the building codes, so I can easily check that.
It's one of those things that, just takes somebody doing the legwork, which, architects may not always have the time to do that. And I think John Rickard, I don't know if he's in right here right now, he's going to be talking about the day on the life of an architect and ask John that same question when he comes to present.
You mentioned you usually kind of stay away from performance-based specifications. Could you elaborate on the pros and cons to performance-based specifications?
Sure. How much time do we
As long as it takes.
Yeah.
Get through one slide, that's okay. We got good questions.
Yeah, no, that is a good question, and I think that the problem or the pros of performance-based specifications are that if you know the performance levels that you want to achieve, then you just specify them, and it's up to the contractor to figure out what products are going to meet the spec. I would think that the con is that the architect also has to do the research to make sure that products exist that meet the specifications. So I guess you could go on product data and just list the criteria that are listed on the product data. The risk you run then is that you've created a proprietary spec that's masquerading as a performance spec, which is not really the intent of performance specifications. The idea of performance specifications is that you open it up to anybody who can meet a certain level of performance, and it has to be realistic. Basically, our approach is if we know some products meet a particular performance, we just name the products because it's sort of easier for everybody, easier for the architect to review the submittals because you can assume that if I specified a particular product for a particular purpose that I must believe that it's going to work. So it makes it much easier for them to review that submittal because they check against the spec and say, oh yeah, this is what was specified. Whereas if it's performance, then they have to go and read every level of performance through, and if something is a little bit above and a little bit below, then they've got to make a judgment call and say, is this close enough? So I think, it's just the amount of time it takes, essentially, to create a performance spec, to execute a performance spec, and then to review the submittal.
Is there a set of language that somebody could use when you walk in and have you deal with the specifier, and clearly your product meets all the requirements, and is as good or better than the other manufacturers and products that are in there? And so you ask, can I be in the firm's MasterSpec? So how do you make that happen, or is it a big deal? Can you do that really just with a Word document right then?
Well, for us, it's a Word document. All of our guides, at the moment, are all Word documents. We're switching that over to something else, but we're using Word documents and adding stuff to them all the time. I don't know, Tanya, do you feel like, if you asking I don't know if you ever do that to them and say, can we be in your guide specs? Do you ever find out that they basically say that they're going to do it and then lie and not actually do it?
Life moves on. They get busy, you get busy.
Yeah, go ahead.
So consistency, as a product rep, for years you go in, it's like turning a cruise ship. It takes a really long time to get your product in the manufacturer's list. But consistently nailing that, sorry to use that term, but nailing that architect or the firm consistently is what inserts. I don't think I've ever walked out of an office and they said, yeah, I'll add you, and then the next job it comes out. It just doesn't happen that way.
If you have a good relationship, if you are a trusted advisor, if you are well known in the space, you can have that opportunity, but be very careful with how you approach that. Because when I get one of those specifications from one of my trusted architects, notice I said trusted architects because I have my trusted architects like they should have their trusted advisors. I will do a track changes in their Word document. I will send them back to them so he or she can see everything I changed. And I will also go through and look at my competition. Hey, this product does not exist with the competition anymore. You might want to check with the local rep. They've changed the name on this. I will do my best to make that totally correct for everybody in the industry, all the space that I'm in, because that way that architect knows that they can trust me to send it to me again. And that's more likely to get me into the spec. So you're exactly right. Deleting the competition is the worst possible thing you could do. I want to highlight competition, their positives and their negatives. Hey, there's room for all of us out there. Nobody has 100% of the business, nor could we handle it if they gave it to us. So do your best to be honest and have integrity, And you will find it's pretty easy to get in the next time, and the next time, and the next time. And architects actually talk to each other, interestingly enough, and they'll tell each other, hey, watch this guy or follow this guy. I've gotten so many recommendations from people who said, so-and-so asked me to call you. I need some help on a project, and so-and-so from another office that I know asked me to call you. So that's the value of doing the right thing.
So one thing that Inspectus is doing, is that we are converting over to a proprietary cloud-based specifications system. And we are just starting to write our new guides that are going to be on that system. And the first guides that we've written, we're starting to post for the purpose of having representatives log on to our cloud-based system and write comments directly onto our specification system. And we're doing it in such a way where each rep that we ask can see the comments that have been posted by their competition, which is an experiment. I don't think anybody's ever done this before. We're seeing how it goes. So some of you that I know will probably be getting emails from me asking you to log on and do that. So I guess there's an advantage in that case to being the last person to go on, because you can see what other people are saying. But so far, the people we're asking don't know that. How are we doing for time? So how much time do we spend on the streaming project? Again, it depends. In terms of products or systems, the research is going to be dependent on how familiar I am with whatever it is. Something that I specify all the time, there's almost no research. If it's something completely new, I might spend a few hours trying to figure out how to specify something. So it's hard to say. There's just no good answer to that question. So these are just some of the commercial guide systems. I think you guys are probably familiar enough with these. I don't have to talk about them overly. I do get asked from time to time, should I pay for to be listed in SpecLink and MasterSpec? And it doesn't hold a great deal of value for me, but I think architects that are writing specs who are not doing it all the time probably use the manufacturers that are listed in MasterSpec or SpecLink over ones that are not, because first of all, they wouldn't necessarily know about ones that aren't listed because they're not listed. So I typically recommend that it does have value to be in those products. Whether or not it makes sense based on how much they charge, that's a business decision. Our specs are typically very poorly written. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but so I don't use them. And then
Can't wait to hear what you have to say about this slide.
I say nothing. It's all right there.
That's okay.
And then, this is showing that some facilities owners have their own specs. Especially typically large institutions, government institutions, universities, hospitals often have in-house masters that they direct architects to use. Frequently, architects don't have a lot of choice in terms of changing what's in them. So, but I would think that architects would know who you could talk to at particular institutions about getting specified, but I would think that would be even harder to break into than even an architect's master, because those people don't want to deal with salespeople, even less than architects want to deal with salespeople.
Yeah, we try to break into the healthcare standards, and that's very difficult. But once you get one, It's nice to be there.
Is there some process that you found is better, easier than others, or is it just knocking on doors over and over again?
Well, for me, it was, in the beginning, I just kept getting thrown to the resource library person or the intern in that office, and I was always like, why can I never speak to somebody higher up? But I will never ever say that again, because that intern I met almost 10 years ago is now one of the real estate head honchos at a healthcare facility, and now I'm the standard in that healthcare because she called me up and said, hey, are you still making those glass boards? Yes, I am. So I can't knock it anymore, you know, just kind of work, just keep on.
You're young enough to do that, that's excellent.
I know.
Well, that's what we do right here.
Right. Yeah. So when we say, you know, when you go in to do lunch and learns at big firms, first of all, bring good sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yes.
But then, you know, obviously you want to talk to, you know, converse with the person who's actually currently writing the specs. But don't forget about the people who are showing up for the lunch who, you know, you may not think that they're going to be very helpful. But I still remember some of the products that were presented at Lunch and Learn when I was in my first job. So I remember some of the people that gave those presentations.
What makes a good or a bad lunch and learn presentation?
Isn't that another session that you guys are doing?
Where's that coming up?
Well, if somebody in the room wants to know, I would like to hear your opinion on
You
it.
got something sticks out one way or the other, good or bad.
Lies I've got. Don't read a script. The guy was sitting on the desk behind me, reading the script.
Oh.
It's terrible. The worst presentation I've ever made.
All right, well, there's a few things. One is have the answers, you know, it's hard to anticipate what exactly is going to be asked. And there's probably always going to be asked something that you haven't been asked before. But yeah, so know the presentation, know your product for sure, you know, or know the subject matter in terms of your product and competition product in the same category. You know, stick to the facts. It's the big one. I've had product reps come in and just kind of go all flowy on made up benefits to their products. That was
Here's cancer.
basically, yeah. I mean, they would say, you know, we put this product in your healthcare and people are going to feel much better. Well, why? How? What's the, you know, do you have science behind that? I tried, you know, one thing I did propose at one point after sitting through a particularly egregiously made up presentation is that I proposed that the IIA should not just require that the presentations be, you know, non-proprietary and stuff, but they actually contain factual matter and you know, have, you know, if you're going to make a claim about the benefits of a product, you know, at least reference some science to back the claim. So I do not want the AIA presentation at all. I just want to talk about the products because, you know, that's the value for me, is actually knowing the specifics about the product and not the non-proprietary information that you're forced to teach about in the AIA session. So when you go in to do the lunch and learn, I would ask, you know, do you go at the AIA presentation, or can we just talk, or would you prefer that we just talk the specifics about the products that I'm here to rep? I would guess most of the time they want the AIA because they got, you know, they need the credits. But yeah, maybe sometimes you know, they won't.
I think that kind of nicely leads into when to know when your product isn't right for that job. If you tell the specifier, the architect, that if they start saying, okay, Tanya, I want to build this wall and I want to do this and that and whatever, as soon as it flags for me, if it's a digital image for exterior, I can't do that. but I will immediately tell them who can. I'll, source out my competitor and say, no, they are much better suited to handle that need. And 9 times out of 10, almost 10 out of 10, I get the call back again for another part of that project or a different project, related to an interior aspect of the job. So that was just a quick thing on when to know your product, isn't right. I mean, do you yourselves run into that? Do you say, I can't, the products I handle won't fit for what you're looking for?
Yes,
And-
you don't want to sell somebody the wrong thing or
Right.
point in the wrong direction to the builder for that too.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate knowing, what something's not good for, because, we don't want to make that mistake of specifying the wrong product for the wrong application, and that makes us look stupid.
5 minutes left. The next part is just about substitutions, how to get a good substitution request in. Usually I work with glazing contractors, that's where my products land. And they'll say, we really want to get you in as a substitute. Can you give me all the product? Well, I didn't know what the correct, things I should be giving. I basically give the brochure on vacuuming glass and some our product data. But now realizing what I do now currently, I'll give them, the data to back up if it's going to be comparable to the product specified. We give, very clear, concise, accurate information. So the product data, warranty information, maybe some imagery of projects that we've done similar, and just kind of list out that in a very compact little package.
Yeah, I think that, if you're gonna put together a substitution, the information that the architect needs to know is what the product is that you're substituting for. You can't just send product data and say, I want this product used in the project.
Right.
You need to,
It has to add value.
right, but even if the product even if it's, a better product, architect, in order to make the evaluation of whether the substitution is valid, they need to know, all right, so I'm substituting this product, comes from specification section, whatever, this is the product that was specified, this is the product that was substituted, and here's why we think that it's equal or better or provides value. Without all that information, it's very difficult to evaluate.
Just one thing that I'd like to add to that is follow the process. There will be a Division 1 spec section that will describe what you need to do for substitution, the form that goes along with it. Fill out the form correctly, all the backup is necessary, and follow the process.
As a specifier, I'm not getting much feedback because I don't, the only time I get feedback is if there's a problem. And usually it's a problem with the content of the spec and not the product that was specified.
Do I go and visit? No, I don't get out very much because we ship our stuff across the country. And usually the only way I know it's going well is that we get a lot of phone calls that just say, from subcontractors, contractors that say, call Envision, call Envision, call Envision. And then they'll call me about some glass that was specified into the project. We have a good reputation just because our turnaround time is really quick. We'll help you solve a problem.
If we don't hear anything, then we assume that are okay. It's probably the same with you. You get callbacks when things go wrong. If you don't get callbacks, you figure that there's no problem.
And I should say, we have had a callback that something went wrong, and it was something we had a shipment of paint that came in, and for some reason, it was bad. And we didn't know that until the silicone was put onto it. Even though we've used that silicone for the last 9 years, this one time it yellowed. I couldn't explain it. We did send it in.
Any last minute comments or questions?
Yeah, quick question, because I see it all the time, because I deal with the structural component, and so most times it's delegated design. But then come bid day, they always have representation on the drawings, and here's the number we want, and they specify here's what we want. But my engineers, as they go through it, say, well, that number of components or that size component aren't going to support the structure. know some of my competitors, that's what's in the spec, that's how many there are, that's how many I bid. But in fairness to the owner and the design team, I'm not gonna bid something I know won't work. So how do specifiers and architects deal with delegate design from the bidding standpoint?
Yeah, that's the problem, because, if it's gonna be delegated design, the drawings should not necessarily be calling out sizes. Say if it's just metal studs, and it's gonna be delegated design, but the architect calls out on the drawings, 6-inch, 33 mil studs. But, then there's a disconnect between the drawings and the specs, and should create an RFI during bidding, ideally. So if you're being, that anybody who's honest would bring that up, then they could be corrected and everybody could be on the same footing. So I guess that's what I would recommend is, if you see a disconnect like that, the best time to bring it up is when the project is being priced or, as an RFI. Does that make sense? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.